guys, it's Lori here. I'm so excited that you are joining me to make your first sourdough starter. If you haven't already, click on the link below to grab your ebook guide that walks you through recipes, how to make your first loaf, how to feed your starter, and everything you need to know about sourdough. Now here's one of my sample baking schedules. Again, you can do this on your own, create your own baking schedule, but this is something I wanted you to be able to see of the process of actually making sourdough. This is the book that we will be using. We're going to be making this everyday sourdough loaf. And what we're going to do first is feed our starter. So step one is feeding our starter. We're going to grab an empty jar and we're going to put it on our scale and we're going to zero it out. Remember, we're measuring in grams. So we're feeding a 1:1:1 ratio. So first we're going to add that 50 grams of starter. Might be a little sticky. And then just keep in mind, if you have extra starter, I call this my discard. So you're going to put that in an extra little jar, and I just keep that in my fridge. Now you're going to zero out your scale and you're going to add 50 grams of water to the starter. After that, you're going to zero out your scale again and add 50 grams of bread flour. And then you are going to mix around, and you are going to want to make sure that you are not getting it on the sides. It's kind of hard to get off the sides, so I try to scrape it off of the sides, but it looks kind of like a thick pancake batter. I'm going to loosely put on the lid, and then I'm going to store that on my counter if I want to bake. And if I don't want to bake, I'm going to just put it in the fridge. You're going to want to mark the glass with a marker at the highest point. I like to just use a rubber band because when we see that it has doubled, you can see the growth here. It takes about 7 to 8 hours. It has some nice bubbles. It smells good. It is ready to bake with. Now that our starter has doubled and is bubbly and active, we are going to make our first loaf together. So you're going to grab your scale, add your bowl, zero it out, and add 350 grams of warm water. You're then going to zero your scale out again. You're going to add 50 grams of your bubbly active starter. Then we're going to take our dough whisk, or you can just use a fork. You're going to mix the starter and water until the starter dissolves. It's going to look kind of like a bubbly rice milk. We're going to then add 500 grams of bread flour and 9 grams of fine sea salt and use our dough whisk. It's going to start getting messy, so I advise taking off any of your rings. And it's going to stick to the fork or your dough whisk and your fingers. Just try to keep kind of getting it off. You're going to mix it together until you're getting all of that dry flour off of the pan and mixed into the dough. It's going to just look kind of shaggy and just kind of a little bit weird at first. After you've mixed it and you've mixed most of the flour off and all into the dough, you're going to clean your hands. Having a bowl of water or paper towel ready is going to be very helpful. Let's remember we don't want to put any of the sourdough down the drain. It acts kind of like a cement. So you're going to use a bowl and just clean your products in there, and then you can just discard it outside. We're now going to cover with a damp towel or a shower cap and let it rest for 1 hour. It's a great time to replenish your starter. We're then going to work into a ball doing our stretch and folds, stretch it up, and then pull it into the middle. It's going to kind of tighten as you go. Make it into a rough ball. Then we're going to mark the level at the dough line because we're going to want it to double overnight. Now we're going to do the bulk rise step. This is when most of the gluten development takes place. Gluten is the protein strands found in the wheat to help the overall structure and the height. So we're going to cover with that damp towel or shower cap, leave it on the counter to rise overnight, about 8 to 10 hours, in a 70-degree house. If your house is cooler, you might want to just put towels over it, or you could put it in the oven with the oven off, somewhere that's a little bit warmer. So let's check if it's ready. Has it doubled in size? Does it have a few little air bubbles? When you touch it, it's not sticking to your finger. It jiggles. Then you can dump it out onto a floured surface. You're going to use your bench scraper, or maybe you use some floured hands, and you're going to scrape it out all onto your surface. Might be a little bit extra sticky, so you might need to use a little bit of extra flour. We're going to do our stretch and folds again. We're going to pull up and fold into the middle. You might have some fun little bubbles that pop in there. You're going to repeat until you have a full circle. You're going to flip the dough over and let it rest about 5 to 10 minutes. Now we're going to get out our banneton or our proofing basket. I like to use these. You don't have to, but you're going to want to season it before you use it. So get it lightly wet on the inside, and you're going to dust it with flour. You can either use a tea towel, or I like these handy little covers that they come with. We're now going to take our floured hands and pull the dough towards us into a circular motion. This is going to tighten the shape, and then we're going to put the seam side up into our proofing basket or banneton. Now the banneton is just going to help hold its shape. We're going to cover that bowl, and we are going to let rest for 30 minutes to 1 hour. I like to do it in the fridge. You can put it on the counter, but if you want to do it in the fridge, you can leave it in there a couple days until you're ready to bake, or you can bake with it after an hour. Now you're going to take your bread sling. I like to add a little bit of flour. If you don't have a bread sling, you can use parchment paper. This will help us get the dough out of our proofing basket. You're going to preheat your oven to 450 degrees. And you are then going to dust with rice flour. So get it good and floured up. Then you're going to gently rub it in. This is going to help our scoring really stand out. I like to just kind of dust off any excess flour. You can take a string and just mark a little X like that. And then you are going to take your bread lame. You can even use a knife. You're going to do it at a 45-degree angle, and you're going to do just some little light slits. Now, this is just decorative scoring. It's optional. You don't have to do that, but you are going to need one large deep expansion score so the bread can expand. I'll show you that in just a moment. So if you don't want to do this, it's okay, but it's kind of the fun part of making sourdough, making it really pretty. So then I'm going to make a large expansion score on either side. You can even cut that other line down the middle if you'd like, or you can just do one expansion score. Now with your Dutch oven, you're going to put the sourdough in and put the lid on, and we're going to bake it at 450 degrees for 20 minutes. Then you're going to take off the lid for another 20 minutes. And then you're going to bake for 7 to 10 more minutes directly on the rack so it gets nice and golden brown. Then you're going to put on a cooling rack for about an hour before you cut into it. And I am so, so proud of you guys. You did it. Give yourself a pat on the back. It's best to enjoy your bread fresh, but it can last up to a couple days. You might want to put it in a bag and just leave on your counter. And I'll show you how to also freeze it too. So if you want to freeze your bread, you're going to cut it into pieces and put on a baking sheet in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then you're going to put it in a bag and put it back in the freezer. This is going to help it not stick together. And then you can just enjoy your bread when you'd like. Just pop it in the toaster and it's ready to go. As of this video, I've only been baking sourdough about 2.5 months. And these are some of the creations I've made. And if I can do this, anybody can do this. Look out for my other videos where I'm going to show you how to add inclusions like jalapeno and cheddar, pesto and mozzarella. We can make cinnamon rolls, just so many wonderful sourdough recipes. Thanks for joining, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and enjoy that bread.